Math 8, here we go again. Okay, you just did adding, subtracting, scientific notation. Like I said, now you have multiplying and dividing. Okay, different set of rules. Part of it is a little bit more difficult. Part of it can be a little bit easier. It just kind of depends. Okay, so we're gonna do 3 examples this time. One's gonna be multiplying. We're gonna do 2 dividing, just because there's one division thing I'd like to show you. But it shouldn't be that long. So let's get going. Example 1. We have 4.1 times 10 to the 8th. Then we have a second set of parentheses that says 2 times 10 to the negative third. Okay? If I just wrote 2 sets of parentheses, something like this, you would know you should be multiplying those 2 numbers. Okay? So therefore, this is multiplying. Okay? You're going to know what to do based on what it looks like. When it's dividing, you'll see it's very obvious that you're dividing those things. Okay? So, difference here, we don't need the same exponent. Because of that, it becomes a little bit more difficult because we do have to change the exponent, okay? But the first step is going to be the same thing. You're going to do the math that you see, okay? So I'm going to separate 4.1 into 2. So I'm going to do 4.1 times 2 because we're multiplying, so we need to multiply them. And then I'm going to put the bases of 10 together over here. So I have 10 to the 8th times 10 to the negative third. Okay? Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky based on, 1, you have to do some math. 2, you have to deal with these exponents. Okay? So first let's just do the math. 4.1 times 2, if you can't do that in your head, just go ahead and multiply off to the side. 2 times 1, 2 times 4. And we have 1 decimal place, so 1 decimal place. Okay? So I'm going to have 8.2. Now, one thing I kind of didn't mention in the add subtract is no matter what, it's always going to be times 10. It's never going to be plus 10 or minus 10 or divided by 10. It's always going to be whatever your number is times 10 to some exponent. Okay? Now, here we need to know our exponent rules. Okay? I'm going to write it off to the side in a different way. That's not right. In a different way just to kind of show you. Okay, this is how you saw it when we did the exponent rules or properties practice. Whenever I'm multiplying my powers, or when I'm multiplying bases, I add the exponents. Okay, that was the first rule. When multiplying, we add the exponents. We kind of talked about how many 10s do I have. We also talked about negative exponents. Okay, I told you need to be careful when dealing with negative exponents because it's going to change the math up a little bit. Okay, if I were to write this out, it's going to be 10 to the 8 plus a negative 3. Okay? I urge you to write it out every single time. Okay? If you don't write it out, there's a chance you're going to get it wrong. Write it out. Unless it's like, if that was a positive and that was a positive, that's pretty basic. It's just 8 plus 3. Okay? But here we have different signs. So we'll subtract and we'll keep the larger absolute value. Therefore, I'm going to get 10. 8 minus 3 is 5. It's a positive 5 because the 8 is a larger absolute value. Okay, so then my answer is 10 to the 5th. Problem solved. Okay, a little different, little more work on the exponents. Okay, you really need to be good at this integer rules, whole same sign, add, keep a sign, different signs, subtract, and stuff like that. Okay, we got 2 examples of division. Go ahead and pause this if you need to. Otherwise, we're going to get to the next example. So example 2 and 3. Okay, they're both division. You can tell they should obviously be division because they're fractions, okay? Now, same kind of setup, except instead of multiplying, you're going to divide, and you still need to make sure you're doing the right thing with your exponents. Okay, I'm going to show you one little trick for this one that might help you too. Okay, but I'm going to separate, like I did before, 8.4 divided by 4, and then 10 to the 9th divided by 10 to the negative third. Okay, so long division if you need to. 4 going into the 8.4. Well, 4 goes at 8 twice. We multiply and subtract. Add your decimal, bring down the 4. 4 goes in once. And that's our answer for that. So we have 2.1 times 10. Again, it's always times 10. It's not going to be divided by 10. Always times 10. And then we need to do our math here. Okay, so when I take this, it's going to be 10 to the 9. Now, you're subtracting. There's already a negative there. So technically there's two negatives, because if this was a positive 3, you do 9 minus 3. Since it's already a negative 3, you're going to do 9 minus a negative 3. This is why I said it would be great to write things out, because then you won't miss something like that. Okay, so please write it out. So from here, double negative makes a positive, and I really have 10 to the 12th power. And that is our answer. Okay? Now the trick I was talking about. I'm going to do this a different way. Okay? 10 to the 9th over 10 to the negative 3rd. When we talked about negative exponents, we talked about moving negative exponents. Okay? To do this, any exponent that's negative, you're going to move the base with it from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top, from numerator to denominator or whatever. Okay? Here, my 10 to the 9th is positive, so I don't need, that's going to stay there. Okay, so 10 to the 9th is still there. And then I'm going to move my 10 to the negative 3rd up top to make it a positive 10 to the 3rd. So now it's 10 to the 9th times 10 to the 3rd. And then if we look at that, well, that's just how many 10s do I have? I have 12 10s, so it's 10 to the 12th. It's the same answer. Okay, that's one way to get around avoiding the negatives, is simply moving them. We could have done that in example 1 by moving the negative to the bottom if we wanted to, but for this example, that's where we're at. Okay, so go ahead and pause, get it if you need to. If you want to try example 3 on your own first, and then we're going to go over it. So here we go. I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to separate my numbers. 9 divided by 4.5 and 10 to the negative 8 divided by 10 to the 3rd. Okay, two tricky things here. One, obviously we've got negatives, that's never fun. Two, this tricks people up. Okay, whenever you're dividing by a decimal, it's probably going to work out evenly. You're not going to get something like 8.41725. Okay, it's going to work out somewhat nice. If it didn't, it's probably just a mistake. Okay, so 9 divided by 4.5, or 4.5. If you think about it, 4.5 is a half of 9. If I said what is 10 divided by 5, you would say 2, because 5 is a half of 10. Anything divided by half itself is 2. So therefore, 9 divided by 4.5 is simply just a 2. I know it seems like it might be something different, but it's just 9 divided by half of itself. Okay? Always going to give you a 2. And then from here, I'm going to write out this rule. So I have 10 to the negative 8 minus, okay, if this was a positive, it'd just be 8 minus 3. Okay, it doesn't change it, it's just a negative now, so it's negative 8 minus 3. Here now we have same sign, so we're going to add and keep the sign. So this will give me 10 to the negative 11. So my answer is 2 times 10 to the negative 11. Okay? Again, pause if you need to, grab everything. Otherwise, that is it for today. Okay, this is probably the more difficult part of this unit. If you ask me. Okay, there's a couple more things to the unit. There's not a ton, because remember, this is only level 2 stuff. But that's it for now, and I'll see you next time.